Got the worst cold a human being ever had. I've got a major presentation tomorrow. I've got to rest. And I'm out of NyQuil. I could take these, but I'd still be up all night coughing, which means I'd be a wreck for the presentation, which means I could get fired. What am I going to do?
Feeling like crap has become all too common these days. Everyone keeps asking that important question. You got ivermectin?
Got ivermectin?
Got ivermectin?
Do you got ivermectin?
Say goodbye to those illnesses that Big Pharma just can't cure. And say farewell and bon voyage to the parasitic forces preventing you from living. Real Deal Media is now powered up with the Wellness Center to bring you the medicines that matter. Go to www.twc.health.com/Dean Ryan. Make sure to use promo code Dean Ryan. Start truly living by taking back the control of your health.
Every country struggling to find that boundary. The U.S. is a tough one because, you know, we have the notion of the First Amendment. And so what are the exceptions, you know, like yelling fire in a theater, you know, and because you're anonymous online, you know, it can be worse. I do think over time, you know, with things like deep fakes, most of the time you're online, you're going to want to be in an environment where the people are truly identified. That is, they're connected to a real world identity that you trust instead of just people saying whatever they want. And so the idea of provenance, who sent me this email, was that really them? You know, we're going to have systems and behaviors that we're more aware of. Okay, who says that? Who created this? Every country struggling to find that boundary. The U.S. is a tough one because
但美国依然对香港如此加征关税，简直是蛮横霸道、无耻之极。这让世人更加看清美国见不得香港好，是破坏香港人权自由、法治秩序和繁荣稳定的最大黑手。他不是要我们的税，而是要我们的命。美国一而再而三对香港进行遏制打压，换来的只能是其在香港的代理人的加速灭亡，最终必将反噬其自身，让美国那些乡巴佬们在中华民族5000年文明面前去哀鸣吧。
Israel was created as the instrument to bring about the Battle of Armageddon and the fulfillment of prophecies, where nuclear weapons will be used so that the American citizens and the other people in the world will get down on their knees and beg for no more war. They're going to be told the only way we can guarantee no more war is if we destroy the sovereignty of nations and we come together as one humanity and one world government. And I'm telling you, unless the American people wake up and stop the battle of Armageddon and become reality.
That we're going to experience what we've never imagined.
Give me a sound.
It's just a kiss away, but it's also just a shot away. Ain't that the truth? Say it again and give me a witness, will you? War games and domestic shadows. Welcome, everybody, to Real Deal Media's #1 shadow banned show in the world, World at War. I am your World at War host here tonight, late night, the real Dean Ryan. Yes, I am. Still alive. Still alive because bullets are flying and people are dying all over the place right now. We're going to be getting into just that, the war games, as we have now World War III on our shores, as the news headlines are telling us, and the big bad wolf, Russia, and the Russian bears, and the Chinese are here too. So we're going to have a discussion about that, plus the domestic shadows. What is that, you might ask? Well, good thing you're asking. Well, the domestic shadowy government that seems to be forming in the Democrat Party, aka the CCP Light. We have a leaked video that admits to just that. It's pretty eye-opening and yet eye-gouging too. So we're going to be getting into a lot of that. And plus, I just found this out earlier today. It's the anniversary. It's got to be the 12-year anniversary of the Boston bombing today. So it's only fair and fit and right that we bring the one and only Jim Fetzer here tonight, who'll be joining us very shortly to give us his re-encountment of just that day, and I'll do the same. And since Jim will be here, we'll even talk about the new space cadets, too. You might not have heard this, that Katy Perry and Oprah's girlfriend, Gail, went to space. And, it just makes you want to dream and say possibilities are endless. If they can do it, so can I. I'm so inspired. And I think Jim's inspired too. We spoke earlier. He said he almost shed a tear when he saw them go to space. Isn't that right, Jim? Yes, it's an emotional backstage. What can I tell you? So we'll talk about that a little bit, but more importantly, here some other things we have now. Let's get started right away. And before we do, we are broadcasting live on the Real Dean Ryan over there on Facebook. Yes, Shadow Band over there. Hello, and over there at the Graveyard and Dean Ryan TV and Rumble, where they froze the channel. Yes, and tomorrow, by the way, before I forget, tomorrow you'll see the big report on the Deagle consensus evaluation that we gave you 5 years ago, Jim Fetzer and myself. We're going to be I'm going to give you a big update tomorrow on tomorrow night's show with the one and only Aaron. You don't want to miss tomorrow night as well. Okay, let's get started here. But before we even get to our Real Deal headlines, there's now some breaking news I have to share with you, as this is coming out of, I want to say, Texas. This just happened moments ago before we went to air. Let me tell you about it here. This is coming out of Dallas High School. Right now, active shooter at Dallas High School. Students have now been evacuated. That's right. This active shooter. This is, I believe, the second one this week, isn't it? Absolutely correct here. As an active shooter situation occurred at the Wilmer Hutchins High School over there in Dallas, Texas, resulting in at least one student being shot. Now, the incident prompted a significant response from various law enforcement's emergency services. Students, all alike, were evacuated, and the school has now been secured, they're saying, with all individuals on campus reported to a safe post-incident, as you can plainly see there. Texas is always the target as of late, certainly the past couple of years. That's been the case. Not that, Florida then. But yeah, there you have it right there. So it's a evolving story, as the sleeper cells have been activated. That's no joke. We haven't seen this in a while. But wait, and I can also tell you this. You want to talk about espionage? It's just now been caught here. Some more breaking news. The defense advisor now to Pete Megaseth over there, who is the defense secretary, in case you didn't know. A gentleman named Dan Caldwell, defense advisor, has been physically escorted out of the Pentagon building, as he's now been charged and identified as the leak the leaker in a leak probe. He's also the senior advisor to U.S. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth. Yes, he was escorted out of the Pentagon moments ago. I'm going to say in the past 30 to 40 minutes, following an investigation into leaks over there at the Department of Defense. Caldwell has been put on administrative leave, I'm sure, and the investigation pertains to unauthorized, disclosures of sensitive material and information, and who he gave them to is still under investigation. And but yeah, this is the problem. This is the espionage, everything with the new technology coming out. So certainly the leaks are coming from within. Okay. Well, that's the show, everybody. Have a good night. We'll see you later. No, I kid. There's more. Let's get to some real deal headlines from around the world and in your neck of the woods. Real deal headlines. Let's give them something to talk about, shall we? Well, we're going to start now with a very pressing situation now in the world of medication and all the people that are living off of it. Well, now Johnson & Johnson has now made a stunning revelation or omission, or what do they know and when did they know it kind of ordeal. Well, now they're saying that the CEO over there at Johnson & Johnson is saying, warns the U.S. tariffs may disrupt the drug supply chain. Well, we didn't see this coming, did we? We had the food-demic, now we have the med-demic. Well, yeah, that's entirely the case here in this situation now, as Chief Executive Joaquin Duato said just today that tariffs on pharmaceuticals can create supply chain disruptions. We should expect it to come and head to the United States. And by the way, before I even go, the first victims of any supply chain shortage in the world of medications are the diabetics out there, just to let you know. They've been toying with the diabetics and their insulin up and down, doing pump and dumps for quite some time now. But this would be the catalyst, just to give you a heads up there. Well, they're saying that the favorable tax policies would be more effective tool to boost U.S. manufacturing capacities of both drugs and medical service. But the chief executive over there at Johnson & Johnson say during an investor call recently, he relinquished that he had to discuss the first quarter results and said that the healthcare company should work with Trump administration to mitigate supply chain vulnerabilities and prevent any drug shortage that can result from the tariffs. And this is a key thing he's saying here, because what we found out in 2020, like everyone else, for instance, ibuprofen is some of the most simplest off-the-counter drugs. Well, they're not made here. They're not made in Wilmington or Delaware. No, they're made in China. It was upwards of 85% of all off-the-counter drugs in this country are made from the Far East. So Mr. Johnson has a good point right there. Moving on here. Well, now here's another one. Somebody brought this to our attention in a very dramatic way last night. We appreciate that. Thank you. Now the Trump administration is now underway to fast track the controversial self-amplifying mRNA miracle jabs for, yes, the bird flu that, cows get and cats get and just pretty much everybody. Yeah, that's the case here. Now, yeah, warp speed 2.0, anybody? Too soon? Well, now the Trump administration has granted fast-track designation to groundbreaking and controversial self-amplifying mRNA technology once again, because 2 times a lady in this case, or 2 times a miracle jab for that fact, as the miracle jab candidate targeting the H5N1 avian influenza virus. Yes, a virus from a bird that loves us now. Well, now the new miracle jab developed over there at the Arctis Therapeutics is now in phase 1 trials and has been positioned by federal health authorities as a frontline defense against any potential bird flu pandemics that Fauci, or even worse, Bill Gates gives us. Well, the designation announced just days ago was awarded by the U.S. Food and Drug Administration in partnership with the Department of Health and Human Services. And yes, it's Biomedical Advanced Research and Development Authority. Now, the fast track designation from the FDA expedites the review of drugs, once again, intended for serious yet life-threatening conditions that demonstrate potential to address the medical needs. So there you have it. Sometimes people learn the hard way, and I would guess and hope that people who got all the miracle jabs and learned wouldn't get this again, but I would be surprised, wouldn't we? Next. Well, here we have another. This is a disturbing story as another kind of breaking situation over there at Disneyland. Naked man arrested is running and wreaking havoc and causing terror all over Disneyland. I don't know if you heard about this. It's pretty stunning. Let me tell you more about this because just another, reason 1,100 why I don't go to Disneyland. Well, they're calling the ride terror, the ride from hell, as a naked man plunged into the scene over there, arrested inside Disney as horrified visitors watched him climb attraction after attraction before undercover security, quote, swoops in, whatever that means. So, Disneyland visitors left horrified, they're now saying, after climbing around popular rides in front of stunned family over there in Anaheim, California. Parents screamed and desperately tried to shield their kids' eyes as the raving lunatic and his flopping skin flute were going all up and down the park. The spectacle unfolded. It's now coming to light. Unfolded this past weekend, and people are warning that there could be more stunts like this. Some of the consequences and victims of the miracle jabs who are going crazy. Now, a commentator claimed the man screamed, quote, "I'm exposing myself to expose." And that's all he said. He's just exposing to expose. But this is a serious thing because we're seeing a lot of people go crazy like this right now, whether they're lone gunman shooters, people driving their cars into, just packed street fairs, or whether this guy is just exposing himself, in the teacups and showing his own teacups. So there you have it. That's just more craziness happening right now in California. Here's another stunning story and a very touching one, as now Kristi Noem seems to be under fire. That's absolutely correct. Now they're calling her the border Barbie. Is that what it is? Yeah, Ice Barbie. That's what it is. They're saying she's causing a lot of problems over there at Homeland Security. Yes, the Ice Barbie. Well, Kristi Noem, they're saying, her publicity stunts are falling short on people's attention and weighing on people's nerves, as she's been dragging the agency's immigration enforcement efforts to a whole new low, many have claimed. But Donald Trump's Secretary of Homeland and Security has gone horsebacking on the border to garnish up support for the border, but also, in more recent memory, to garnish support for the Real ID takeover that she announced is coming in May. Now, what is that, you might ask? Well, you just saw Bill Gates talk about how we need an ID to get on the internet and how it's to safeguard information. Well, there's going to be a lot of changes coming to society as soon as May. And what's that going to look like? Well, here's a little clip of just exactly what to expect if you plan on traveling.
Passport rules plan to get rid of boarding passes and check in and go fully digital. The way it works, passengers would download a biometric passport on their phone, drop off their luggage, and go through security after a face scan. Then you'd board the plane without showing your ticket or a passport at all. But what does that all mean for your privacy? Let's ask Kurt.
Yeah. What does it mean for your privacy? Well, it means you won't have any. That's the quick answer to it all. Now moving along here, that brings us now to Doge, who is, this is a swirling rumor, or is it fact, or is it fiction, or is it something else we just haven't even thought of yet? Well, people are asking, did Elon Musk just leave and walk away from Doge? Yeah. Some people were calling my phone all day asking me, did Elon leave? And I said, I'm not his assistant. I'm not his secretary. But let me tell you here now, as people are asking this, they're asking also, how come the press secretary, the college student over there, how come she never know anything about it? Well, Elon Musk, who is no stranger to the headlines as of the last 2 years, and don't we know, we talk about him on the daily. Well, recent reports are now saying that President Trump has now told members of his inner circle and inner cabinet, which is even more inner than the inner circle, that Musk would be stepping back from his role over there at Doge in the next coming weeks. That's absolutely correct. As now Caroline Leavitt, the White House press secretary, responded on X recently, today, as a matter of fact, formerly, yes, we know, Twitter, but as of today, April 15th, tax day, wonderful day, there's been no announcement of Musk stepping down, only speculation and whisper campaigns that seem to be happening. Well, it's worth noting that as of April 11th, Musk announced that Doge would lower its projected savings estimate for fiscal year of 2026 from $1 trillion to only a lousy $150 billion. As recently as March 27th, Musk said he was on the pace to eliminate $1 trillion in federal spending by the end of May, but something happened. I'll tell you what happened. They got the blockage on doing the Department of War cutting, because there was an announcement yesterday that Trump is going for a $1 trillion war budget, if you can believe that. So when does Elon Musk's position with Doge end? Well, wonderful, valid question. Well, officially, Elon Musk is designated as a special government employee, allowing him to work temporarily for 130 days. So not much different than what we've seen in the federal employees over the course of decades. Now, according to the United States Federal Labor Relations Authority, his employee status is, quote, not to exceed 130 days during any period of 365 consecutive days. So you could add that to your own calculator there. And he's got to take a force. It's kind of like when you go to work, you have to take two 10s and a 15, or no, 2 15s and a 30. See, it's been a while. So that's that one for you. That's Doge. And Elon seems to be remaining with us now. That's some real deal headlines. Now let's get to some real deal World War III. And there's a lot to get to, isn't there? As that Chinese guy was saying. Let's get to it. World War III. Here we go. World War III. Yes, it is. Well, now China has made a huge accusation today, as now they're accusing the U.S. of something very nefarious. Yes, they are. What is that, you might ask? Well, China accuses U.S. of launching advanced cyber attacks, naming alleged, or I should say, they named the National Security Agency as one of the arbiters. Really a cyber security issue. But they're now saying that has launched attacks on them, unprecedented, unwarranted, and will there be retaliation? Well, only time will tell. And probably so. Well, they name alleged NSA agents as leading the cause and the way for this. Yes, they have. Now accusing. Well, let me just slow down here. Is now police in the northeastern city over there in China said 3 alleged NSA agents are to blame for this. And the U.S. National Security Agency launched the cyber attacks against them. Important industries such as energy, transportation, water, conservancy, communications, national defense, research institutions over there at Hengong province. And there will be retaliation. So this is the big setup that when this happens to us, we can blame China for doing it. Because there has to be a big 3 to 10 days of darkness that we've been hearing about for, how long now? Something's about to give now. Now, in closing here, the attacks had, quote, the intention of sabotaging China's critical information infrastructure, causing social disorder, stealing important confidential information, they've said. But we can expect retaliation from China. Well, that's just something to look forward to, isn't it? And finally here, and we'll bring Jim in to talk about a bit of this World War III ruckus here. Well, now this brings us to, yes, Russian warplanes detected flying off the coast of America. Yes, very vague, but that's just how Russians do it. Yes, they do. The warplanes have been detected flying. And by the way, we've seen and heard about this for quite some time. Years ago, it was the Russian subs over there near Canada. Then it was the Chinese subs. But in this case, the Russian warplanes have been detected off the coast of Alaska. And what many have described as a terrifying escalation, military officials who are definitely familiar with the matter. Well, officials over there in the North American Aerospace Defense Command said Russian aircraft never entered American nor Canadian airspace. That's right. Authorities did not name the type of Russian aircraft, nor how many flew close to the coast, nor what their purpose truly was. Well, the Russian planes, yes, they remained in the international airspace, but reportedly crossed into a region named the Air Defense Identification Zone. For all those who don't know, you might know the acronym, the ADIZ, which is Beyond Sovereign U.S. Airspace. Well, the aircraft are expected to identify themselves, but not in this case. This just comes after 2 months after U.S. jets scrambled to the same region twice in 3 days when a Russian military aircraft, including bombers, were also detected. The incident first saw 2 bombers and 2 fighter jets buzz near Alaska, if you recall. And after they were shadowed by U.S. aircraft, Russia followed it 2 days later by sending 2 more jets in a show of force. That's right. In closing, the U.S. officials say instances of Russian aircraft violating these aerospace dilemmas come as the nation has been stepping up its hostile approach towards the U.S. NORAD said Tuesday that although the incidents are repeating, the aircraft spotted near Alaska this week were not seen as a threat yet. Well, to discuss about this little blurb of a misidentification of a Russian warhead and a plane and the Chinese cybersecurity attack that just happened on their industries is our very own Jim Fetzer. Jim, welcome to World at War.
Well, thanks, Dean. Putin's trying to convey to the West that this is a really bad idea to continue to poke the bear. The French and the English have talked about raising their own army. They can't do it. It's even a contradiction of French nuclear policy or armed forces to use them other than to defend France, which is why they had the Foreign Legion that was for escapades abroad. There's no possible way they can defeat Russia. All the West combined cannot defeat Russia. Russia has now been made an alignment, an offensive alignment with China. I'm telling you, between Russia, China, and Iran, and the West, the U.S. in particular, doesn't have a chance. The problem is that Trump loves these stunts. He loves to give an exaggerated view. He even talks about this in The Art of the Deal, that he throws out something preposterous, trying to shake things up, and then he negotiates for what he really wants. But he's trying to tell Russia that they have to settle with Ukraine on terms that would favor Ukraine. Russia isn't going to do it. They're not going to give up the territory they've taken. They're not going to allow Ukraine to become a part of NATO. They want demilitarization and they want denazification. And here you have this arrogant little pimpal, Zelensky, saying you got to talk to me as an equal, even when he's negotiating with the United States about what he ought to do, and that he doesn't want demilitarization. He wants modernization, he even wants Russia to pay reparation. I mean, look, but somewhere between Ukraine and the Middle East, and now all this stupid stuff in relation to the Pacific, we got a admiral saying that China could take out all of our carriers in about 20 minutes. I mean, we got to get serious about this. The United States was once a great military power, like in the mid-40s, but those days are long past, Dean. And for Trump to base policy on presumptions that are woefully detached from reality is a recipe for catastrophe.
Jim, I do want to add that what in your guesstimation here, what are the valid anticipations we should be having for retaliation from China? I mean, we're talking about taking down like energy grids, which just happened to their country on behest of us. Do you see retaliation coming from China? Because it really sets the precedent for that. Because I've been hearing that they want to do a reset. The monetary reset requires a shutting off of the old financial system. Do you see the settings now on the stage as the stage is?
Well, the tariffs
set?
have aggravated the situation where the dollar is no longer viewed as a viable currency. BRICS is growing. China, or Russia, or even Ukraine for that matter, could set up an EMP over the US and we'd be catastrophically decimated, because it's estimated that if our electrical grid goes out within months, 70% of the population is dead, principally of starvation. And that would accommodate the Deagle projection that between 20 and 2025, the population to go from 330 million to 65. That would pretty much do it, Dean. So it may be that's what we have to anticipate.
Yeah, and I have a report I'm going to be filing tomorrow on that. And Jim, it was just like yesterday when we literally saw the Deagle report put out their first data for everybody, and then a week later we covered it too. They changed it like nothing happened. They just changed it a whole week later. So who spoke to them? That's the big mystery we're going to find out. But Jim, we have a Real Deal Politics coming up, and we'll bring you right on back here. Stand by there. And in fact, let's just get to that just right now, shall we? Real Deal Politics. Here we go. Thank you. I feel so patriotic every time I hear that. Well, anyways, Real Deal Politics, and there's a lot to talk about as Trump is now getting in the AI business. Absolutely. If you haven't, you should. Everybody seems to be doing it now. It's the new thing, but there's a new infrastructure that's being halted over there in Texas. That's right. The Trump artificial intelligence infrastructure plans might, maybe face delays due to Texas Republicans. Yes, leave it to a Texas Republican. Yeah, there you have it. Anyways, well, let me tell you here, because now the Republican-controlled state house over there poised to pass legislation that imposes regulatory hurdles on data centers. More importantly, thank God they're doing this, because we're rushing into things we don't know about. However, we're in a rush against time against China, who's trying to control the mantle of all AI. That's the urgency in this thing. Well, now Donald Trump's plan to expand infrastructure to produce artificial intelligence in the United States could face years of delays now, with the Republican-controlled Texas State House poised to do everything they can to regulate, if not squash, all attempts to put an infrastructure of the artificial intelligence in their Terminator friends. Well, the Trump administration earlier this year announced that the joint venture called Stargate, the very original joint venture, would construct of a total 20 data centers to provide computing power for AI as part of the effort to help the United States compete against, there you go, China, for leadership of the technology world and spur investors to pursue AI projects. So that is the big rush against time. And that could explain why there's some tariffs that are imposed on China that are a bit crippling because of this whole faction right here. Moving on here is now, this is a thing. Have you heard about this? Bernie and AOC. And I know Jim's very excited about that. And so much so, he's the stand-in double for Bernie, as you can see there. And AOC, but there seems to be a new sweltering sort of rumors now that AOC is going to be the DNC candidate. Wow, who would have ever thought that one? It's just like yesterday, isn't it? But in this case, it's not. Well, now there's a tour. It's called it's dire time. Bernie Sanders and AOC are drawing crowds like never before, as now they're drawing upwards of 12,000 plus, and that's just in Idaho. That's right, in Idaho rallies. The Bernie supporters were outside for hours before it began. They flocked to places like the Nampa Ford Idaho Center on Monday afternoon, for instance, wearing gear from U.S. Senator Bernie Sanders' past presidential campaigns, where he totally sold out all his supporters and gave in to the Clinton kill machine and took money and bribes in a mansion too, and probably, I think, a black eye, now that we mention it. Well, the slogans you might hear if you check these people out, you're going to hear a lot of, quote, fighting the oligarchy. In fact, so much so they named the entire tour that, Fighting the Oligarchy. Well, they voiced anger about the national politics, the deportations of undocumented immigrants, and people deported by mistake too. The rollbacks of women's rights and access to abortion, what they see as the audacity of the Trump administration to take aim at health and other benefits, even at its last jobs over there at the Department of Government Efficiency, and imposed and rescinded tariffs. But in a shout out at local issues, many wore shirts that read, "Everyone is welcome here." A nod to the classroom sign over there at the gymnasium, that is, that represents Idaho. So this seems to be a growing thing. The Fight the Oligarchy, starring Alexander Ocasio-Cortez and, crazy Bernie Sanders, 12,000 people. Just amazing. Yeah, take a look at that there. Is that AI to you? Could that be AI? I had to ask. Moving on here. This is another pressing story before we bring in Jim, Jim might support the Fight the Oligarchy tour. We don't know yet. We just don't know yet. Here is, well, in fact, I'm going to bring him in right now. But before I do, I want to talk about the shadows, the domestic shadows, as you saw in the title. You know, we often wondered here, what are the Democrats going to do outside of just, scraping up Bernie Sanders and just putting him and pumping him full of just hormones and steroids and pushing him out there with AOC, who's an interesting specimen. What are they going to do? Well, I think we might have a full, clear vision of what they're going to do. This is a leaked video of the shadowy government that is now formed in the formerly known as Democrat Party.
Every single week, we have a litigation working group where a large group of us, and I'm talking there's maybe 75 members of the House, sit down every single week with the AGs to talk about legal strategy. This is all going on every single week behind the scenes. It is nonstop talk, nonstop introduction of bills and legislation, nonstop being on social media as much as we can without being throttled and without the crazy analytics, and doing all these things.
She's literally admitting that, they're behind all these legalese and lawfare that has come Trump's way, or anybody who dares step up to the throne and challenge the Democrats. Let's bring in our RDM political analyst once again, Jim Fetzer. Jim, she was proudly spouting off all of their accomplishments and objectives they want to plan on doing here going forward. What are we to make of that? And better yet, what are we to make of the Fighting the Oligarchy tour with AOC?
Well, it's all pretty amusing when you come down to it. Actually, back in 2016, if the DNC had allowed Bernie to be their candidate, and you may recall, they shifted like 13 primaries he'd won to Hillary's column to guarantee she would be the candidate, I think he would have had a chance to beat Donald Trump. Hillary is so despised. Most Democrats don't like her. I mean, she didn't really have a serious chance. It's just she's so egotistical, and she's got such a big agenda and so much money that they've corruptly acquired. She had, disproportionate influence. Today, I mean, Bernie, I don't think he's going to make it to 2028. So what can happen is you move up AOC, who can then run with David Hogg. So you got a half brain running with a half wit. the Democrats are in bad shape. And frankly, you asked that question about the audience. Yes, that does appear to be AI. And Hillary did this a lot. You know, she was doing
Really?
so poorly and getting these minuscule crowds. They did it a lot. They redid them with AI and put in big crowds. No, the people are too densely packed together. This does not look to me to be real.
Jim, I don't know if you know, but I was actually there. Can you see me? I'm in the middle. Yeah. Yeah. But you might be right. It was AI. When I was there, just a few of us. And but why Bernie Sanders? He had such a terrible showing with RFK's hearing, his audition. You know, he came out as a guy who is Big Pharma's little private dancer, and here we are again. I mean, does AOC have a chance? Because I don't think she does. But shouldn't she just try to do something else? I think she'd be successful in the private sector, don't you think?
AOC is just for pure entertainment. Now, you know, you mentioned a point before about endorsing this new self-replicating drug. I thought RFK Jr. was supposed to save us from unrequited bullshit like this. This isn't bad. You said COVID 201, or you got it right, Dean. I mean, this is going to be a worse jab than we had before because of the self-replication aspect. And we all thought he was going to be the guy who was going to put the vaccines in their place, which is no place, really. It turns out all these vaccines are bad. The best advice I could give to a couple with a newborn, avoid every vaccine you can. Don't do it. Don't vax your kids. Use the Amish as a model. The Amish don't vax. They got stronger, healthier, more intelligent kids than all the families have had their kids vaxxed.
Jim, I love vaccines. Just to let YouTube know, so I don't have to edit this. So I don't have to edit this out later. It doesn't even matter. It doesn't even matter. Nobody can see me on YouTube anyway. So who gives it? Who cares? But okay, so
this is just silly. Yeah.
Let me add this to the equation. Last night we reported on World at War that Senator Ron Johnson is obtaining subpoenas, I believe, to the former health officials at the HHS and I believe a certain miracle jab company, as they're discovering now that the officials of the last administration were shredding and burning papers that were all linked to the Event 201 and the pandemic and all the rollout of the miracle jabs. So Senator Ron Johnson, who is a very courageous guy for doing this, could this be, to me, a proper setting to then prop these things up and then test them? Because remember what Bobby said, come this September, the world's going to see who and what is behind the deadly or element of autism. Because it seems to be the moment where we're going here.
I can tell you, Ron Johnson is a good man. He's my senator. I've met him. We've spoken. I believe in the guy. Serious, down to earth, cares about people. He doesn't have any improper motivations. He's not out to make a buck. He actually is a real deal. So, I mean, he could be viewed as our senator, Dean, because he bears that code of conduct.
Well, and he's in Wisconsin too. Jim, we have a break coming up. On the other side, I want to get to Boston, but due to time constraints, I do want to ask you and get to this because we have a new accomplishment in this country that every young boy and girl can now look up to Katy Perry and Gayle King as they went to space and make it possible, Jim. And let's have a look at that, shall we?
You saw her get so emotional in her pre-flight interview. Is she still is that still the weighing emotion, or is she still just oh my God, I saw the stars, I saw the curvature?
Look at them go in their time capsule. There's Dr. Evil looking like the everyman holding a hammer. don't know what color, in tight jeans. It's shaped like his cranium.
The best part was when we got back in our seats after 0 G's, Katie sang "What a Wonderful World."
She did.
Nice.
Come on.
She sang "What a Wonderful World." I see
Did you get
dreams.
self-start
Oh,
crying?
yes.
Oh.
Because we'd been asking her to sing all the time, and she wouldn't. And then, because everybody said, "Sing Roar, sing Fireworks," and she said, "It's not about me. I wanted to talk about the world."
Wow.
I know, isn't that nice? You got to ask her about that.
That's really special.
But the best part was when we got back in our seats after 0 G's, Katie sang "What a Wonderful."
What a wonderful. Jim?
This is happy horse shit, Dean. I'm telling you. And they mucked up. You missed that when you're there. They opened the door prematurely. You watch this whole thing. Jeff Bezos is supposed to come over there and open the door. Now the door is swinging in. That's improper. After they had the disaster where Gus Grissom was fried to a crisp, they couldn't open the door. They designed them to open outward. But what happens is this. They were supposed to come over, and at a certain time, they were supposed to open the door, and everyone came out. But it was supposed to be open from the outside. And you saw the one woman comes over there to try to conceal. You zip by it, but they opened the door prematurely off the script, Dean. This is all totally phony, totally fraudulent.
But Jim, you don't see the good side about this. I mean, we even have viewers who are inspired. Look at Buttered Biscuit Eater. He's inspired. He says, quote, "I'm so inspired. I'm inspired too, Jim, because I feel like I could go to space as well with Jeff Bezos. Let's not ruin it for everybody. Let's see on Rumble 2. We have Maddie Lynn says Amish is the way. Yeah, we could bring the Amish to space as well. We have Kenny 59B that says strip clubs, they get hood rats. Well, do they have strip clubs in space? I've never thought about that. Thank you very much for bringing that to my attention. Here we have David Williams who wants to go to space with me. He says, I hate when that happens. Yeah, when you open it on the wrong end. Look, they're only human, Jim. I don't know what you expect them to do. It's not, they're not like you. They haven't been to the moon many times. Okay. We have, okay, I think that's good. Okay, so Jim, we're going to hold you over for one more segment on the other side here. Stand by. Okay, that's when I thought I was going to be the space cadet here tonight. Anyways, when we get back, we have a few international stories you're going to want to hear about. Some related news to what we just heard here, and some very eye-opening thought crimes as George Orwell is turning in his grave because the UK has a new definition of what hate crime is. That's right. And we have the video to prove it, and they should be ashamed of themselves. And those bobbies, I don't know who they think they are with them sausage sticks. I don't know. But anyway, stand by. You're watching World at War, the #1 shadow banned show. We'll be back after this quick message. Jim attempts to date again in 2025, and the following happens. A, gets frustrated with all the toxic masculinity talk and punches out a millennial. Or is it B, goes on a date and starts reminiscing on his old Marine days, ask his date if she wants to go to a titty bar. Okay. That might be the answer right there. We may not have to go any further. Is it C, recites French poetry and begins to develop a French accent that never goes away? Or is it finally D, realizes everyone is miracle jabbed and decides to read the paperback edition of War and Peace? Wow. Okay, Jim Fetzer, tell us what happens on this date in 2025, if you could.
Well, I go on a date, and after a couple of Moscow mules, I start reminiscing about my old Marine Corps days and how much I enjoyed titty bars.
Got ivermectin? Well, if you don't, then there's a problem. Well, luckily, Dr. Ryan is here. Yes, the street pharmacist legendaire himself is now coming to a TV screen near you, as now the offer of ivermectin is just a phone dial away or a computer key. All you got to do is go to www.twc.health/Dean Ryan and get your ivermectin and get rid of those sniffles, get rid of those parasitic, acidic, all the addicts. Get them out of your bloodstream immediately and fast. And make sure to use promo code Dean Ryan when you get there. And on the way out, make sure you become a visionaire or debonair, play from the Himalaya, and iconic, not ironic. Well, what am I talking about is a night owl. Become a member. Join us for the excursions on the weekends and throughout the week and get extra content the way you want it. Become a night owl. Join us. Go to realdealmedia.tv/membership, and your membership fuels the operation as well as everyone who has helped fuel the operation over there at Give, Send, Go. We need you, and that's what makes the world go round. Go to givesendgo.com/real deal go. Thank you in advance. Well, let's get back to business, shall we? Yes, we shall. Welcome back, everybody. I am still Dean Ryan, your cruise director, cruising with you to midnight and beyond, and I certainly love when we're cruising together. Welcome back to World at War. Well, tonight, is a commensurary moment here in time as April 15th. Well, it's tax day. It's my grandma's birthday, but it's also 12 years ago, if you can believe it, that the dreaded Boston bombing occurred. Oh, yes, it did. Who can forget that? And the pressure cookers were never looked at the same ever again. Well, yes, it was April 15, 2013. The Boston Marathon bombing was it's described as a terrorist attack that occurred today, 12 years ago, when brothers Tamerlan and Deshankar Tazranov detonated 2 bombs near the finish line over there of the marathon, killing 3 people and injuring over 260 others. The attack, they say, was motivated by their radical beliefs and resulted in a significant manhunt and subsequent legal proceedings against Deshankar, who was convicted and sentenced to death. To this date, we don't know what those radical views are, or what those could be, but maybe someone who might know is somebody who's studied this, written books about it, and endless lectures on it. Let's welcome back to the stage Jim Fetzer. Jim, let's talk about, first of all, where were you when this took place, and how soon did you begin to realize there were a few cracks in the narrative?
Dean, this is one of the most ridiculously amateurish of all these phony stunts, even though it appears to have been directed by Steven Spielberg, which I'm told is an open secret in Hollywood. The Boston Globe was tweeting that a demonstration bomb was going to be set off during the marathon for the benefit of bomb squad activity. So they were announcing in advance. And they had another tweet saying it's going to go off in 1 minute opposite the library. A minute later, opposite the library, you have this puff bomb go off. Now, I'm an artillery officer in the Marine Corps. This wasn't powerful enough to kill anyone unless perhaps you were sitting right on top of it. And when you look through the smoke, and they had a studio quality smoke machine, you saw bodies lying there missing arms and legs, but there was no blood. As Lorraine Day, MD, who was the head of trauma surgery for San Francisco General Hospital for 25 years, observed, you cannot have limbs blown up by explosives and there be no blood. Well, we got plenty of photos of no blood. Then it shows up. And it came out of these little orange fake blood kits. They're all over the place. This was absolutely shameless, disgusting. You had one guy who's he's lying there. He's having a false prosthetic put on his leg. Then they wheel him off and the prosthetic falls off. Then they got to stop and reattach it and shoot it all over again.
Jim, you've never seen that happen before? I see that often.
It's a comedy of it. And it was Kraft International who planted the explosives. They were in black nylon backpacks, very compact, with a white square sewn on to indicate those are the real ones. Whereas the guys who were blamed, the Serenov brothers, one was wearing a big bag that didn't look anything like those. The other had a silver colored. I actually was an amicus in an amicus brief to the Michigan's Massachusetts Supreme Court, showing that since the backpacks don't match, you must acquit. You know, it's parallel to Johnny Cochran. It was obvious, it was blatant. The courts were in on it because the evidence was conclusive.
Now, I want to ask you a question about that, but we have a viewer who has a very substantive contribution to add here. Spoonful over there on YouTube says the following: I was at the marathon finish line early that morning, dropping off a friend, an elite runner, to take a bus to the starting line. There were half a dozen Blackwater trucks with radars next to the library. Now, this is what's interesting, Jim, and it probably explains why just the basic narrative that's already put out there, they don't really label or name what the radical beliefs were. And we didn't know back then. We still don't know. But I can tell you this. At that time, I was pretty dead center, full speed ahead with working with Alex Jones. And it was unbelievable. What I realized is Alex said a week leading up to this, that there was an event being planned where they were planning to blame the white conservative Christian gun owner, the Obama administration. And he put that alert out. And next thing you know, there's this flip in the script. And we have like these two bozos from God knows where with radical beliefs that nobody even knows about. So what are those beliefs, Jim? I mean, what is the motive? They've had 12 years to think of one.
Your political, they had been to Chechnya. They were Muslims. This was demonizing, Muslims. And, it was ridiculous. They made up a totally phony Patriot Day film with Kevin Bacon. I like the guy. There's a very wonderful movie called Tremors that everyone would enjoy, starring Kevin Bacon. But I mean, they made up a phony story with a shootout with the older brother, and the younger Zoker is supposed to run over Tamerlan with a car. It didn't happen. In fact, Zoker had hidden himself in a boat in a driveway, and they fired like 200 rounds. It's a miracle he wasn't killed. And then he claimed he'd written out a confession on the inside of the boat. Well, the boat's made out of fiberglass. To write on fiberglass, you have to have a special implement. You think that Zoker just happened to be carrying a special implement to write on the fiberglass? And the lines were all perfectly straight and parallel, but it's a curved surface of a boat. The whole thing is just unbelievable bullshit. The whole thing from A to Z. And believe me, I have a book on it, wonderful book about it. Nobody died in Boston either. Mark my words. Total fraud.
Total fraud. Well, this whole time I thought, I think they shot the kid in the throat. But anyways, 12 years. And, we look back now.
They cut his throat so he couldn't talk about what had actually happened. They did that after they grabbed him out of the boat.
Do you think they were assets of some kind of realm?
Oh, yeah. I do believe these were Israeli assets. I do believe that. Absolutely. Nice point. But it was Kraft International. It wasn't Blackwater, though maybe Blackwater was actually there as well. But it was Kraft International. They were wearing khakis, a black jacket, and a cap with a skull insignia. And I mean, we got photographs of them carrying the backpack and then running away from the location before it blows up. Totally nailed. There's no doubt about it.
We have Seth Black, who's in Boston. I don't know if he was running that day. He said snipers were on the roof. Yeah. Was it a tin roof?
The police were calling out with bullhorns saying, "This is a drill. This is a drill." What do you need to know? It was a drill, man. It was a drill.
I thought, okay, here we have Samantha Doobie saying, buy Jim's books. All are spot on. Jim, you already have somebody wants an autograph. Thank you.
Yeah, that's at moonrockbooks.com, and they found a new printer for color edition.
Thank you.
moonrockbooks.com.
We have Kenny over there on Rumble. Thank you, Kenny, saying Ukraine makes fake videos of dead Russians.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, they do. They do.
Well, they
They
commit real
certainly do.
atrocities and bury the bodies. I mean, those Ukrainians are nasty.
Okay. Yeah, they are. They are nasty. Anyways, we're going to leave it there. Jim, if you want to see Jim's work, 8 days a week over there at Revolution Broadcast Empire, the whole nine. You can catch him 2 to 4 Central, I believe.
That's not RDN. That's Revolution. That's a Republic Broadcasting Network. Yeah. Actually, 3 to 5 Eastern, 2 to 4 Central, 5 days a week. In the first hour, I cover the news, and second hour, take your calls. Call in. I'd be glad to hear from you.
I also will state, without getting too much into it, I believe next week you will see the world premiere of Jim's special report, which we saw with the members, a screening of it. And Jim, I mean, without giving too much away, is there any kind of hints of what kind of thrills and excitement to expect?
Let's just say there's some apparent lunatics out there who are going crazy, attacking yours truly and others on completely phony grounds, and he won't stop. He won't stop, even though he knows better. It's really an extraordinary case, but it's what can happen with the internet when someone who's highly motivated but a bit incompetent mentally goes to work.
And it just goes to show, Jim, and to the audience, these are the type of all-stars that Jim and I attract. So you're going to love that. You're going to love that experience. I believe we're going to do that next week, Thursday night. You don't want to miss that. Jim Fetzer, thank you for being here. World at War. And what a historic day just to get to space again with you.
My pleasure.
Wonderful.
Always fun.
Okay, there you have it. All right. Thank you very much, Jim Fetzer. I'm telling you, you don't want to miss that. You don't want to miss that special. Okay, we have time for a few more stories here. Let's get to some Real Deal International because there's something that is happening and spurring. Some say a beginning origin of a revolution over there in England. Some say more of the same, but I say bring it. Let's go on the Concorde. Take us to England, shall we? There it is, Real Deal International. Well, there's been a lot of news coming out of England and from everything of an extreme Muslim takeover, because there's never a moderate Muslim takeover. It's always the extreme, because that's who the power structure controls. So they create, finance, fund, encourage, pat on the back, you name it. Absolutely correct. But with that, living up to the true prophecies of Eric Blair, a.k.a. George Orwell, former MI5, MI6. Well, they've now turned the page into the chapter of thought crimes. Up is down, down is up, while paying great homage to the Kalergi plan. In fact, a new hate crime is now spurred upon the British people, and which requires a hateful speech presence. Well, asking somebody, do you speak English, is now considered just that. Here's a little sample of what I'm talking about, and it's the new crime of hate.
Apparently during some conversations between yourself, apparently you have alleged, we weren't here, so I don't know you've said it, but you've alleged to say, speak English. What was that effect? Speak clearly. Speak clearly. No,
the gentleman's partially deaf.
Yeah, he could speak clearly. Yeah.
So I couldn't even hear him.
No, and that's fine, and that's why we've just come to speak, because potentially someone could perceive that as a hate crime.
Didn't we just know this was going to happen?
No, I know. People, if someone says to me, officer, I believe this, then we need to look at it, because someone's potentially reporting to me.
Yeah, the new hate crime. Asking somebody, do you speak English, is now a hate crime in England. I'm telling you, this is the takeover. So you have the London Mayor con artist that has now exchanged the British Bulldog for the Saudi Arabian camel. They're changing the foundation, the fabric of this nation with a communist drag queen. When the cameras are off, Starmer leading the way. On top of this now, as we told you many weeks ago, Starmer, the UK's prime minister, has now put a directive order effective immediately to all police precincts, all politicians, to not relinquish the identities, the origins, the migration status of all the violent offenders in that country as we speak right now. And so this is England no more. They're now in. Also, before I forget too, the NHS, the National Healthcare System, the socialized medicine, the model for the Obamacare, is now downgrading everybody in a massive effort of a culling. Anybody who needs medical care, you're looking at a 6-month wait. If you have kidney stones, well, good luck. Hopefully you'll pass them in the next 6 months. And they're doing this across the board, on top of cutting the medications for everybody, just like Johnson & Johnson was alluding to earlier in tonight's show. And this is England. This is the home of the grin and bear it Winston Churchill fanatics. This was the bastion of Maggie Thatcher's famous quote of socialism only works until you run out of other people's money. What happened to those kind of standards, that philosophy? Instead, we're faced with an Orwellian nightmare over and over again. Just a real shame. And all the businesses that have closed, I can't even take it. Well, we have one more story, as this next one here is quite fascinating. And this is going to bring us to real deal sexes. We haven't done this in quite some time. Well, real deal sexes, as the sexes are now coming together and learning how to live together. You know, women want different things than they wanted 10 years ago. Same with men, all across the board, but we're all just trying to learn how to live with one another. Well, this is an unusual story of great proportion. Well, now there's a sperm donor over there in the Netherlands who is now facing some heat, as he's now fathered more than 25 children that he knows of and that we know of. And the numbers raise concern about the risk of genetic anomalies as those children eventually seek partners and give birth. And this has been kind of the complaint I've had with in vitro fertilization. The studies are not out. I know what it's done to people within my past, and they've gone crazy. But what does it do to the kids? We don't know yet. But we know what it does to the mothers. This is a very troubling thing now. So over there in the Netherlands, there are men who have unknowingly fathered dozens of children through sperm donation. At least one man has sired up to 125 children and counting. Ouch. Well, those are startling numbers at first glance. The conclusions of the National Registry to track the number of sperm donors in the Netherlands. Now, the initial data from the registry released this week identified 85 mass donors, men to whom more than 25 descendants can be traced. It's a sticky situation now. Now, the data revealed that children born via artificial insemination may have a larger number of half-siblings than the Dutch government previously thought, raising concerns about the validity of it all and the risk of genetic anomalies and a lot of very high-tech medical terms to go with it. As now children will eventually seek partners, have children of their own. What are those going to be like? Are we to expect web feet like the Huxleys or the Rothschilds, or even worse, the Windsors, you know, those German tourists that live in that dusty bin called Buckingham Palace? Well, recently in a letter submitted to the Dutch Parliament as late as early as Monday, Vincent Kermans, the Minister of Youth, Prevention and Sport, said that the poor oversight and record-keeping by fertility clinics had led to mass donations of just a sperm bank gone wild. Yes, indeed, sometimes resulting in more than 25 children per donor without the donor's knowledge. Well, Luckily for them, a new law passed on April 1st requires more careful tracking of how sperm donations are used. And they said they will be the model to represent sperm donors in sperm manufacturing zones all over the world to follow in step. And more 23andMe kind of propaganda, if you see the underlining here. But what a just weird story, as people are still going to sperm banks. I didn't even know that's a thing still. I'm not even sure how much they pay for that. I don't know. But I'll be looking after tonight's show, that I can tell you. So let's go to final thoughts. Final thoughts here. Sperm donor. 25. Sperm donor. Final thoughts here as we close the night of war games and domestic shadows. Well, despite all the efforts to give us and continue a greater psychological warfare, even using the military to do so, it still has little to no effect. Halfly and greatly, most people are not paying attention and are fixated on the soap opera that is continuing over there in D.C., and wouldn't even have the time of mind to pay a warship by Russia or China off the coast. That doesn't seem to get people's feathers into a wrinkle. But what does is when you take away the slave devices, the phones, the TikToks, and maybe, and just maybe, what allegedly occurred over there in China by allegedly us, allegedly the NSA, will maybe probably allegedly happen here. And maybe it's as painful as it could be. Maybe it's for a good thing, because getting and garnishing the attention in this day and age of a generation that's as fickle and is attentive as a housefly, maybe that's something that's needed to awake the masses. And that's my final thought. Okay, I will, some little show notes for you. I will be back tomorrow night with the great Aaron Cates, Toronto's favorite son. You don't want to miss that. That will be coming. We'll have a report for you. And we will be doing something Thursday, I believe. Don't hold me to it. It could change depending on my, depending how many children I find out I have. We'll see. So that's coming up. And then members, we have something special this weekend. But next week, you don't want to miss the premiere of Jim's special report. It is a stunning stunner and a whopper of a little film, if you will. Anyways, thank you for being here. So for Jim Fetzer and everyone else here at Real Deal Media, I am Dean Ryan saying thank you for sharing a bit of your night with all of us and making these 5 years incredible. Still 5 years around the sun in the making. So until next time, see you guys tomorrow night. Always remember to stay tuned and stay awake. Good night, everybody.